Hello, everybody. My name is Boulevard. If you just want to see the games, you can go ahead and skip ahead. I understand. It's all timestamped down below. You can just hover that little bar and go right into the gameplay. If you do want to know a little bit more about me, because this is probably your first time seeing me, because this is my first Marvel Snap video, my name is Boulevard, as I said. From 2015 to 2019, I played this card game called Force of Will. I was a world champion, a national champion, and I won many other Tier 1 events, which is to say I know what it takes to be a competitive player and do that side of things. Then in 2020, I started doing Legends of Runeterra as a shoutcaster. Came into the game with the intention of shoutcasting, and I've been doing that for the last 3 years. I got onto the World Championship last year, which is to say I think I am good at shoutcasting, and now it is time for a new venture, and while I'm still doing Runeterra, I also wanted to check out Marvel Snap, so you're going to be seeing more of me in the future. Hopefully I'll actually get onto one of these tournaments as an actual caster relatively soon. I didn't know this was happening, but this is the Marvel Snap Clash Streamer Showdown, and I'm going to go over the format real quick, and then we're just going to jump right into the games, because this is not really like a solo cast, it's more of a VOD review, so when you hear me cast later, it'll sound a little bit different than what this does. What made me like Marvel Snap? It's really simple. It's so simple. I'm a lost puppy, and I follow Casanova around. Wherever Casanova goes, I go. Look at that pretty smile. I can't help myself. Onto the format. Let's get what they're actually playing with out of the way. It's closed deck list, which means that you don't get to see what your opponent is running. You're allowed to switch cards or decks between matches, which is really big, especially in a show match like this when you are having everybody play on camera. Like, let's say it's Guest Gaming was playing like a Silver Surfer deck and they put Shang-Chi in there for some reason, right? It's just like a tech choice. And then, they have to go play the winner seeding match because they won. And then like Teddy Ninja versus Super Sketch God was like watching game one, saw that they have a Shang-Chi and a Surfer deck. And like that now that's something that they're aware of. They're going to play around it going into the winners match. And like it's a downside that Guest Gaming was on stream. So like I am a fan of switching cards and decks between matches if you are streaming every single match for like a show match thing like this. I'm not sure what my preferred method is for Snap tournaments just yet, and then there's no card restrictions in best of one, so for now I'm definitely fine with switching cards and decks between matches. I think that's pretty cool. It takes away the ability to like stream snipe or scout or anything like that, and I'm never really a fan of scouting. But as far as the actual format, essentially two of these players from Group A are going to get eliminated. Whoever loses these matches is going to get eliminated, and then they're going to play to see who is first and second in the group, and then it looks like the winners of each group will play on Sunday, and the losers of the finals of each group will also play on Sunday, kind of thing. So it's a little confusing. As like they have this whole graphic here for it. If you can read this and it explains it better than what I just did, by all means. But that's what they're all playing for. The cool thing that I have about Marvel Snap is that I don't really watch a lot of streams. I just prefer to kind of play the game. So I have no idea who any of these people are. I've never seen any of them before. So I have no bias here. So I just get to judge them completely off their gameplay, which we should get into. All right, here we go. Game one. It's Guest Gaming TV versus No Lux Given. Looks like we've got just fatty Lockjaw on the side of It's Guest Gaming. Again, because the players are allowed to switch decks in between rounds, there was no reason for them to submit deck lists, so I do not have deck lists. I don't think anyone has deck lists, but I'm sure that if you watch the entire match, you'll be able to see all 12 cards that the players played, especially on the side of It's Guest Gaming because they are playing Lockjaw. Okay, and now that we see Daredevil from No Lux, we kind of have an idea of like 8 to 10 cards that they're running. Daredevil to me always hard signals Professor X, and more lately, especially this season, it's been signaling Galactus. And I just kind of assume that most content creators have like pull 4, pull 5 cards. On ladder, it's always a little bit different. I'm like, okay, are you one of the 15 people that own Galactus? Or okay, Dark Dimension's interesting. It means we're gonna get to, oh man, that's gonna be kind of wild with Lockjaw. Now, one thing I wish that the game had was the ability to check your opponent's mana. Like, I wish It's Guest Gaming had the ability to look at how much mana No Lux had gone down to last turn to know if it's a 1, 2, or a 3 drop underneath of their Dark Dimension. But we don't have that just yet. Okay, Jubilee, probably looking for, like, Infinite or Giganto. Jane Foster's Thor, I don't think I usually see in these decks. Usually I'll see Thor because of Mjolnir, right? But I don't think you have any other 0 power cards. Granted, 8 power for 5 is, some of the biggest that you're just going to get, like, baseline without being, like, Red Skull or something. So maybe that's why it's in there, but I usually don't see Jane Foster's Thor in the Lockjaw decks, but I don't really play the Lockjaw decks, so, okay, and we hit Thor. So Mjolnir's in there. That's going to be really hard for No Lux to contest the left at this point. Nobody's put down on Hellfire Club yet. We've got a potential 3 and 4 drop under Dark Dimension for No Lux. If you're playing Daredevil, usually, like, if you're playing Galactus, the mid-game stuff is always kind of weird. It looks like we're just going to Jane Foster's Thor on the left. Just absolutely no interest in contesting Hellfire Club. And this is going to be 1917 power once Mjolnir comes out on Shadowland. And we get to Mjolnir the Lockjaw. So what is it, like Nightcrawler? You could like Nightcrawler, Mjolnir, Dark Dimension, and then Dracula mid, but it kind of depends on how No Lux wants to play this turn. Just kind of waiting. It's the Daredevil turns always take so long. I think it's a cool card though. Okay, somebody snapped. I don't know who. It'd be kind of weird for its guest to snap here. Just given that, like, you know, the Daredevil is still going off. Oh, Wasp. Okay, you play Wasp. All right, yeah, so Hellfire Club completely locked down by the Professor X, but I don't think its guest can win the left from here, knowing that Mjolnir is coming down. And the right is, it's about to get triple lockjawed. And stuff that's still in the deck is like, probably like Giganto, Infinite. Actually, there's only like, hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so there's only 2 cards left in the deck for its guest, if I've just counted my math correctly. So after this, we'll know its guest gaming's entire deck list at the very least, which also means that one of Mjolnir, Wasp, or Nightcrawler is about to come back out. We'll see how much power we can get here. I assume it's like Giganto Infinite, but I'm not obviously 100%. Okay, there's Infinite. Wasp. Be a real low. Okay, America Chavez. Yeah, the hand was full. That makes sense. So America Chavez didn't come out. So there's no Giganto. Yeah, and then it's going to cycle back into Wasp or Mjolnir. 31 power is going to be tough to beat, especially if you're starting off with armor. The Timu. Okay, yeah, no. So game 1's going to its guest. That's going to be 4 Cuber to start things off. Wolverine. Okay, yeah. This definitely looks like Galactus. The Atimu is weird to me in Galactus, though. But I guess it's just one of those things where because you are playing armor for the games where you don't get the Galactus. But Wolverine definitely, to me, says Galactus. But I don't know. I don't have Galactus, so I'm very inexperienced with Galactus decks. I don't really understand how they play. In like the games where they don't. Holy crap. Okay, Jane Foster's Thor is bad here because you only have Wasp in the deck. Infinite is sort of just locks down one lane because you know that your opponent isn't playing Shang-Chi because I think you just saw pretty much their entire deck. I guess it's one of those things like it could still happen. But I do like Vision. Especially, like this keeps the options open for turn 5 if you do draw Thor and you want to go for Jane Foster again. Infinite would have been spicy, but I do think like Vision makes sense here. Hobgoblin. Okay, yeah. Suddenly, I think Project Pegasus is just down and out for its guest. You got to try to win the other 2 lanes, which is going to be really easy now that you have Vision. Just move that onto Death's Domain. You've basically got that one won. So now we're just fighting over the right. And No Lux probably not going to be able to be as big as its guest. Its guest isn't snapping, though. One of the things I've been sort of struggling with lately, is probably the best way to put it, is like, I've been playing decks that want to proactively snap, and I'll snap on 2, and then just get rolled by whatever the 3rd location is. Dark Dimension again. So if we are thinking Galactus, then, I mean, Project Pegasus is looking real juicy if that's the way that you want to play this, but it kind of depends on if its guest has the read on that, if they want to commit to that location to play around it. It almost feels like it could have been worth it to leave the Vision on Project Pegasus and then move it later, but I don't think it matters, certainly not for the time being. She-Hulk an option, but it looks like there's a hover on the Jubilee instead. Okay, we're going to contest the Project Pegasus, actually. All the biggest cards are out of its guest deck. We saw that they're not running Giganto. So we're looking at, like, there's some low rolls. It's like Lockjaw, Nightcrawler, Wasp. Not a whole lot of cards left in deck. Wave. Okay, yeah, this is, I mean, it does mean that its guest can get down She-Hulk plus something else next turn. Yep, there's Lockjaw. There's Thor. Oh, I thought She-Hulk would... I misinterpreted the She-Hulk wave interaction, it seems. Also played it on Death's Domain to keep that open. So, if you Galactus Death's Domain, Wolverine comes in as a 6. And then No Lux has a plan. I'm trying to figure it out because, again, I do not play Galactus decks. Just going to contest Dark Dimension with Dracula. Sure, why not? I think it's really unfortunate for its guest the way that things played out. Like, if its guest had known that No Lux was going to wave on Death's Domain, they probably actually would have just Jubileed on Death's Domain as well. Now, I'm not sure how Lockjaw interacts with Death's Domain. Because I remember, like, reading somewhere that... Okay, it is Galactus. I remember reading somewhere that like, location abilities happen first, but if you, like, brood on a location that doubles its power, you get a 4 attack brood and then 2 attack broodlings. So we lose the Death's Domain. Okay. So I see. I think because its guest has priority. Yes, okay. So because its guest has priority, they have to retreat because No Lux can play Professor X to go to 9, and its guest's card will get destroyed before No Lux Professor X flips. So takes the conservative line there. And that's one of the things that's so interesting to me about Marvel Snap tournaments is this concept of the correct play versus the winning play, where the correct play is like what the stats say you should do in an instance like that. And like in that instance, it's the correct play for It's Guess Gaming to retreat. But the winning play is the one that actually works out in the moment. And it can look like a bad play on paper. For example, if It's Guess just like doubled down, snapped, and said you don't have Professor X, and No Lux didn't have Professor X, that's the winning play. It's almost never the correct play. In fact, it's probably never the correct play, but it could have been the winning one. And it's one of those things where card players will like, they'll really, really roll you if you go for the winning play and it doesn't work out. But when you do it and it works out, you just look like a god. So now we've got Asgard, Attilan, Warrior Falls. I hate Attilan so much. Attilan might be my least favorite location because I tend to play more combo-y decks that like I'm not playing the game until turn 3, you know. And that's how I function in like every card game I've ever touched is like Boulevard does not start putting cards on the table until turn 3, man. I'm not about it. So No Lux, is there, if you Galactus Warrior Falls, no, Warrior Falls doesn't work. No, that's not the one I thought it was. Never mind. So this is probably not a Galactus angle. Your death wouldn't really be that cheap. And then you still run the risk of like a pass into a She-Hulk turn, like a She-Hulk Dracula on the Galactus location would be devastating. So I think this is a game where No Lux not really going to be able to play for that angle. And Asgard really seems like a lost cause for No Lux. Its guest is going to be able to get the Wasp out here, cycle a couple of cards through Lockjaw, Dracula a location potentially. And that's kind of the question that I've always had about Galactus decks is like in the games where that strategy doesn't seem as viable, you know, what is your win con? And I guess we'll find out now, or we won't. And, you know, it'll just continue to look fragile in my mind. But again, these are just decks that I'm not super familiar with. Woo! Okay, going up to 6 mana on the side of No Lux. We get the Wasp. Now, what are we getting out of the Lockjaw? It's gonna, ooh, Infinite. Okay, so yeah, Asgard is totally locked down. 2 draws over here. Could even Magneto later on, but for now, once again, like, No Lux gets to secure a location here with Professor X if they want to. And its guest, yeah, just, I mean, the Wasp really isn't going to help win or lose a different location, it seems like. So you might as well just cycle it into Asgard, even though you've kind of already won that one. Then we get Jane Foster. Oh, actually willing to take out the Electro. Okay, so this makes sense to me because if No Lux wants to Professor X a Tillin here and just sort of like secure that location, there's no way that No Lux is winning Warrior Falls, right? Death could match Magneto. Somebody snapped. Again, I'm going to assume it's No Lux, just because it'd be really weird to me if someone was snapping while Daredevil was active and they hadn't seen what their opponent played yet. So like, it makes sense to me that No Lux like saw its guest turn 5 and snaps and says, okay, you know, let me get this out of the way so we go into 2 Keeper on turn 6 before you get to see what I play. But I think they can tie Warrior Falls, and then yeah, if it comes down to like Death versus Magneto, then it's a draw on Warrior Falls. Attilan is won by No Lux, and then Asgard, the tiebreaker, absolutely goes to its guest. Okay, maybe it was a snap from its guest. Maybe its guest has been the one snapping on the Daredevils every time and just saying like, you're taking too long to think about this. You need to. I'm gonna snap to hurry you up a little bit. So it looks like we've got, I can't tell if that's 4 or 5 left for No Lux. I don't know if the graphic cuts off. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, yeah, it looks like there's 5 left for No Lux. And then we still have 8 on the side of its guest. What do we got here? Mirror Dimension, Monster Metropolis. Oof. Definitely locations favoring its guest so far. Just has the bigger cards. I don't actually... One thing I haven't thought of is... What do we call... I think that was a snap from its guest. Or, yeah, I think that was a snap from its guest. One of the things I haven't figured out is what are the cards called in Marvel Snap? Like, in Magic, they're creatures. In Yu-Gi-Oh, they're monsters. In Force of Will, they're units. I don't know if we actually have a name for the cards in Marvel Snap. Do I call them, like, characters? I'll figure it out before I get on an actual broadcast. Baxter Building. Oh my gosh. Every single one of these locations is just great for its guest. Assuming that we're not, like... Actually, even if we blow them all up, like, Baxter Building is neutral ground if we get Galactus, but... Okay. Acceleration, going into turn 5 for No Lux. Double Baxter Building. Interesting, but mostly just kind of funny. Contesting the open Baxter as opposed to the Electro Baxter. I don't really have an opinion on it, is probably the best way to put it. Like, I'm still kind of, like, I'm still relatively new to Snap in the fact that, oh man, if you had contested the Electro Baxter, then actually would have been able to win that location with Thor. It's these weird, it's, in this situation, it doesn't really feel like a 50-50 because your opponent is already pre-committed onto one of the locations, and now we see a snap from No Lux, it seems, so both players have snapped. Nobody's backing down. Yeah, this is such a strong turn for its guest. I'm surprised to see No Lux go for... Okay, they think that they can win this out on 6. Nightcrawler can even come into assist. Maybe just didn't expect the double. Oh, okay, this is awkward. If Dracula can hit... Okay, so we see the final is 5, so No Lux is on 5 cubes. So No Lux can retreat here and still have 1 game to play. But it's kind of awkward because I don't think they can ever play for more than 1 cube. I know that on game 5, it doubles the baseline to 2 cubes, but I don't know if a player only has 1 cube, I think you just play for 1 cube the entire time, which kind of sucks because it's going to take a lot of time to like get through its sort of pool total. Destroyer. Okay, yeah. That's going to roll the dice on an Infinaut, it seems. Oh. I think Infinaut won there, right? Because you would have gone up to like 23, 24, 26. Would have been 5, 28? Yeah, 28, and then it would have been 24 on the side of Monster Metropolis. So yeah. It's Guess Gaming taking the 33%er. Not hitting it, which isn't really low rolling, but I respect the hustle. Oh, I'm not a fan of Plunder Castle either. I can't when I started playing Snap, like my first pool 3 card was Leader, and then my second pool 3 card was like Arrow, so it's pretty obvious what kind of decks I was playing from day one. But then after the Leader nerfs, I just haven't really clicked with like there's no 6 cost card that speaks to me. Couple of contests on the Shadowland. We're just back to neutral on everybody. Who's going to win the 50-50 on the reveal first? It's going to be It's Guessed. No Lux. This is the wave turn. But it's kind of weird because you can't wave... Like, Galactus is just off the table unless Electro comes out. Okay, now we actually have... The problem is that you would have to Galactus and then... Actually, yeah, so this kind of works out, right? In the sense that... So the way that this can play out, under the assumption that it is a Galactus game, is No Lux can Galactus Plunder Castle on 5 and then play Destroyer in a 15 power Plunder Castle. The problem is that if its guest passes on 5, then they can Infinaut Plunder Castle. And that's something that No Lux is going to have to be aware of. Because Magneto Nightcrawler is not going to do it. It's going to be 1 shy. So No Lux could still play Plunder Castle with Destroyer Galactus on turns 5 and 6. So that's kind of what I'm looking out for in terms of, is that going to be the big swing here? But in the meantime, we're just going to get Dracula, Mjolnir. What's your turn 4 play, No Lux? I don't think we've seen like a 5-minute... Okay. Oof. Yeah, that Dracula is definitely going to get a little bit bigger. It was an attempt from No Lux to Professor X that location. It's just not really working out so far. Jane Foster's not going to draw anything here, but we are just going to sort of secure Shadowland. Because this is bigger than Destroyer, which is the most power that No Lux is going to be able to output. Looks like we are getting a 6-drop here. Yeah, it is going to be Galactus. And because No Lux, or because It's Guest played cards this turn, there's no out for... Oh, even if there was Infinaut because of the Wolverine. Yeah, so this is just a win for No Lux then. Assuming they have the Galactus. Now, it looks like It's Guest has 3 cubes, so they could retreat here. And, yeah, that is going to be the play. It's Guest Gaming so far has been playing very respectfully of, like, sort of the obvious outs of No Lux. And there's no real reason, because this is single elimination, there's no real reason to just, like, throw your entire tournament away off of saying, okay, you know what, actually, I don't think you have it. But things have really turned around here. It's Guest down to 1 cube. Okay, it looks like it does double to 2 cubes anyway, even though its guest only has 1 left, just to sort of ensure that, you know, it's not going to take forever if I'm down to 1 cube and my opponent still has like 10 and I have to sit here and like win the next 10 games in a row. So I do like that it still doubles up like that. What do we got here? Eternity Range and Miniaturized Lab. Oof. Probably going to see No Lux put something on Eternity Range just to... I mean, the Rock is probably going to go there anyway, but no, actually we're going to see Olympia contested from its guest. Not really caring about giving the Rock over to No Lux. And there's a pause? Or no, there's just a... I don't know what that was. Infinite, Thor, Jane Foster's Thor. These are the things I'm sort of looking at as like big hits here. Okay, Thor. So once we can get Jane Foster's Thor, we've got a lot of value here. And the Rock going over to its guest. Jane Foster's Thor off the top. Jubilee, probably... yeah, I don't mind not Jubileeing Olympia, because you still have Wasp and Mjolnir in deck. And, okay, Dracula. So, Olympia pretty secured here. Question is, how do we want to win Miniaturized Lab? Is it just like, you could Vision Eternity Range and then Magneto Miniaturized Lab. That probably does it. Meanwhile, No Lux, like turn 5, this is the Professor X turn. Ooh, but if your Vision gets locked down by Professor X, and then Destroyer comes to Miniaturized Lab, that's a big issue for its guest gaming. So it's a little bit of a risk to put the Vision here. I don't think No Lux really has a turn 5 play other than Professor X. There's a fly on my mic stand. It was distracting me. Sorry. There is a... Okay, yeah, it's the Professor X, which means Vision is going to be locked down. Miniaturized Lab looks like it's going to go to No Lux, assuming that you sort of get the 6-drop that you expect here. Is it Destroyer? But it has to be Destroyer. Nothing else does it. It's really just like Destroyer versus Magneto. And, I mean, its guest doesn't have the retreat option. This is the last cube, so really just kind of forced to finally call it out. Or you could try to Jubilee into Infinite. How spicy are you feeling, its guest? Because if the Jubilee hits the Infinite, that does beat Destroyer. Destroyer will only be... Assuming Wolverine even lands back at the Miniaturized Lab, that's only 19 power. Jubilee into Infinite would be 21. And... It's kind of risky because there are things that you can Jubilee into that don't even beat the Wolverine. Like, Wasp is back in the deck. Mjolnir is still in the deck. So it looks like it's going to be Jubilee Nightcrawler, so that at the very least we, like, beat the Wolverine. But I'm sure that No Lux is going to play a card here. Even if it's, like, Galactus, right? That beats Jubilee Nightcrawler plus the Mjolnir or the whatever. And I don't think No Lux is going to go for the retreat, but it looks like it is the Destroyer, so... There's still a chance. It could be Jubilee into Infinite. Jubilee Infinite does it, but it's got to be exactly Infinite. And it's Mjolnir. Things not really working out for its guest this time around, but No Lux. No Lux takes it, and that is going to be game 1. So its guest gaming is eliminated, and No Lux is going to play a winner's match a little bit later on. All right, on to the second match of Group A. It looks like they got into things a little bit late. I'm actually going to hide my camera because it looks like we have both hands now, which is pretty interesting. I actually have all of the stones pulled up on the side of me. They're a lot more intuitively named than I expected. But it looks like we've got Thanos... Okay, Thanos Lockjaw. I was going to say, like, Control. That's kind of what I think when I see, like, Leech Arrow, but I haven't really seen Leech since the leader nerf, so... And then on the side of Super Tech God... Okay, so Super Teddy is on the Thanos Lockjaw deck. And then Super Tech God is on... I don't really know. Oh, I assume this is just the, like, big guy Arnim Zola deck. Which I don't think I usually see Leech in, but I am not super familiar with all of the... I mean, I think in a tournament, Leech kind of makes sense, where, you know, if you are up against, like... you know, a Surfer deck or like some turn 6 combo deck, I think Leech isn't a bad tech option, and maybe that's why we're seeing it out of both Super Teddy and Super Tech God. I didn't realize this was a Super Mirror. Space Stone went to... Wait, Space Stone nowhere, even though it's not going to draw us a card. I'm just kind of lockjawing through stones. And armor is going to go away and turn into Time Stone. Okay, we're still playing like all of the big stuff that you would see out of a normal lockjaw deck, it seems like. I'm very unfamiliar with Thanos decks. Yeah, I mean, we Leech the lockjaw, might as well, right? This is going to actually negate the Arnim Zola, so this is pretty big. Bifrost has happened. Red Skull coming down. I'm a little surprised to see Viper in a deck like this. I haven't really figured out the use cases for... Oh, Ebony Man. Okay. So you just want to like Ebony Man and Viper in the same turn. That's a strong turn 3. It's probably the strongest turn 3 you'll get out of this deck because you don't really start putting things on board until turn 4. Okay. It's all intuitive. All makes sense to me now. Looks like the players are still... I'm a little confused about the layout here, but that's really nothing new for me on Marvel Snap. When it comes to like watching streams and stuff. Okay, Bifrost is totally locked down. That's a win for Tech God. And going into turn 6. What... Oh, you just arrow everything to Nova Roma. Oh, did we just see... okay, we saw a double snap. Why is it only final 4? Can you only play for max 4? Does it not double on turn 6 in friendlies? Huh. So, I guess here, Teddy's going to go for the arrow on Nova Roma, and it's not going to work because... because the location is full, because you can play Ebony Man again, because it got leeched. And with 13 power coming into assist Nova Roma, and there's no way that the arrow does it, but... Oh, man, that was so... I think Super Teddy is now like, oh no, like, because Tech God also snapped, like, if Teddy didn't snap and Tech God snapped, I think Tech God would be like, oh, crap. Like, I think I have an idea of what's happening. You can still retreat after you snap? I'm apparently extremely unfamiliar with the mechanics of the friendly battles. But from my understanding, both these players snapped and then one of them was still able to retreat, whereas on ladder, I'm 99% sure you can't leave the same round that you snap. Because then you'd be able to, like, snap to bait your opponent into leaving and then just dip. Okay, we've already got so many infinite... I could have sworn in the movies there was only, like, 5, 6... No, yeah, it is 6 stones, because it's 1 for each finger and then 1 in the middle. We're just loading up with stones here. It's going to be 4 energy. So Teddy gets to start lockjawing now. Meanwhile... Okay. So one of the things that I think I heard one of the casters talking about earlier was that Sauron completely blanks the text of anything with an ongoing ability. So because Ebony Man has an ongoing ability that says you can't play cards here, it'll also blank out the rest of the text that says you can't play them after turn 3. And it looks like Teddy's just kind of rearranging where they want to go for the lockjaw here. Which, like... These are such bad locations for Teddy. I don't think Teddy has any kind of movement thing in here. Like, I don't think we're going to see vision, which, you know, not out of the question given that it's a... Not out of the question given that it's a lockjaw deck, but Teddy actually not getting down the lockjaw in Ruins last turn either because they couldn't play anything on Sanctum Sanctorum, and you couldn't play stones onto the second location. So it makes sense not to lockjaw there because you'd only be cycling big things into potentially small things as opposed to, you know, what you sort of want to be doing with lockjaw. But I think really would have preferred to see the Sanctum Sanctorum blown up because I think Tech God still has a really good shot at winning the left, even through Sunspot. blue Marvel really going to help try to keep down the Los Diablos base, but no Arnim Zola yet for Tech God means they don't have a guaranteed win on the Sanctum Sanctorum. Which means if Teddy can hit the Space Stone, then they can win the Sanctum Sanctorum. And now Leech takes away the possibility of an Arnim Zola play. Armor also takes away the capabilities of an Arnim Zola play. So even if it's top decked here, but nobody wins Sanctum Sanctorum. And it looks like the tiebreaker is going to be Elysium, which I have to assume is just going to go to Super Tech God here. Throwing down a 0. Thinking of throwing down something else. Okay, it's Typhoid Mary on the left and 0 on the right. We see another double snap and then into a retreat, both these players. I'm not going to lie, the shift in the layout has sort of thrown me for a loop here. It's also very confusing to me that, like, you can see most of the board through Teddy's hand. Mojo World feels like it favors Teddy. You're not going to see Tech God filling a whole lot of locations. And Mojo World can be really devastating for tiebreakers. Jotunheim, on the other hand, a lot better for Tech God. Why did the Soulstone not... Am I crazy? Did Soulstone not say draw 2 stones from your deck? Why did we not draw 2 stones? Am I stupid? Okay, so we've got 2 locations that, like, Jotunheim's not that bad for Teddy. Hellfire Club's pretty bad for Teddy. Jotunheim is certainly awkward because your Lockjaw will probably dip into the negatives. And I don't think that's something you can really afford to have happen. Oh, I was reading Mind Stone. That's why we didn't draw 2 stones, because it's yellow and orange. That makes sense. You kind of just want to wait as long as possible to Jotunheim. Or to play into the Jotunheim. You don't want to, like, Lockjaw on 3 for the setup. You want to, like, Lockjaw with something on 4. That makes sense to me. We're actually just going to change it into Elysium. Cards costing 1 less? Who does that favor? I assume it favors Teddy. You can get down some of your fatties while still lockjawing. That sounds super good to me. And I like the armor in the center here. Going to take away the possibility of the Arnim Zola on the Red Skull. Still, it's just a lot of fat units, creatures, whatever you want to call them, characters in Tech God's deck. But right now, things are looking pretty Teddy favored. Oh, right, armor's going to cycle through on Lockjaw. Okay, no Arnim Zola, though, but, like, Teddy has to respect the Arnim Zola. Okay, the arrow will do it unless Teddy fills Hellfire Club, which it doesn't look like Teddy's doing. So even though it's not Arnim Zola, arrow will still get the job done. Because it doesn't matter how big Sunspot gets, because we're filling out Mojo World with the 0. We're going plus 100. And who's got priority here? Is it, I actually can't tell based on the layout. I mean, I can tell that it's Tech God because they're the one that's winning, but with the layout that we have, it's a little confusing. It looks like both players have snapped again. We're going to 4 cubes. I'm surprised that Teddy thinks they have this in the face of potentially both Arnim Zola and Arrow, but probably not expecting Arrow 0. That's a problem that I run into a lot versus this deck, is I'll be like, okay, yeah, like they can Arrow, but I forget that they also run 1-drops. And yeah, no ability to Lockjaw. Now we're just going to go plus 100 on Mojo World. Already winning Elysium. Oh, it's actually going to be an arrow as well into Power Stone. Oh, but one shy on Mojo. There's so much. Oh, man. There's so much to watch in this game. Like I said, this is my first Snap video. This is my first time like watching a Snap tournament and sort of doing one of these VOD reviews. So like please bear with me. I promise it only goes up from here, everybody. I promise I'm better than this in the future. But for now, it's a little, you got to get through the growing pains with me. And I appreciate you for that. Maybe you just want to watch the tournament. Maybe even have me on mute. I don't know. Super Teddy way down on cubes, though. Super Tech God yet to lose a game here. The Thanos Lockjaw not really working out so super well so far. Honestly, I think Cerebro. Oh, the hub. Okay. I was like, the deck that I have certainly struggled with the most on ladder is against what Super Tech God is running right now, just like the Red Skull Arnim Zola decks. Those are easily the thing that beat me the most often. It's difficult to deal with. Even if I'm running a Shang-Chi deck, you know, they've got the armor, they've got just fatties. It's hard to tell which lane they're going to play on the second one. Scar is going to pull the Cerebro in. Meanwhile, Blue Marvel, so definitely getting the better end of that if you are Teddy. Maybe this is finally a win for Teddy here. Get Lockjaw into the Space Stone. Things are going good so far. Sauron going to blank out Ebony Man. Space Stone, what are we rolling into? Soul Stone. Okay, it's just more and more stones. Move the Soul Stone out of the way. Get the... Okay, gonna take advantage of the hub card and actually run out the Jessica Jones. I think the problem that Teddy's been running into is armor, usually decent counterplay against this deck. If it's all you have, it'll at least stop the Arnim Zola. But because you're running Lockjaw, yeah, Super Tech God can just play it on the hub. And, you know, not really worried about you, like, rolling into the armor. Going into turn 5 now. Jessica Jones going to do what they can to try and win Sakar. At the moment, it's Teddy favored on Sakar. Miniaturized Lab still locked down. The hub, with the Infinite in hand, and Magneto, and Thanos, I think Lockjaw is actually sitting on some really weak pulls here. The best bet is probably to try to hit all 6 stones and get Thanos to 18 power. Ow. Okay, Chavez. We've got Sakar, we've got the hub. It's usually difficult for Tech God's deck to reclaim 2 locations this late in the game without an Arnim Zola. Looks like it's going to be... Yeah, Ebony Man, 0 Viper. This is so weak. 0... Yeah, this is probably going to be a retreat from Tech God. I believe Teddy's the one that just snapped. There's no way Tech God snapped, right? Not with how badly they're losing the hub. Although I guess what Tech God's thinking is, like, if I Red Skull the hub, it's blanked because of Sauron. So I'll go to 18 power on the hub, and then I can throw a 1-drop onto Miniaturized Lab or Sakar. And, you know, do you have the capabilities to overcome that on both ends? The answer is probably yes, but you never really know which locations your opponent's going to play to in Snap. Like, you have an idea of what you would play to, and then they just go completely... Like, you're like, yeah, it's obvious to go right here, and then they just hard left. Oh, and we can even move the America Chavez because of the Reality Stone. Or the Blue Stone? Is that the Mind Stone? Space Stone. There's a Space Stone? That's so stupid. Space... I guess that's what the Tesseract was, huh? Okay, Tech God played it out. Said, you know what? It's only 2 cubes. Whatever, man. 2 cubes, that's nothing. But, I don't know. It was... I don't know... With Tech God's hand there, I think, you know, you might have liked to retreat, but honestly, in the tournament mode, I'm not really sure how much that 1 cube matters. It might actually just not matter at all when it comes down to it. Space Throne, a lot better for Tech God, I would say. Mindscape, really bad for... Oh, man. Oh, Elysium. Okay, so Elysium, I think, is very good for Tech God. Just being able to get online that much earlier. Actually, just going to jam out a Typhoid Mary onto Space Throne. I don't think you've seen the Magneto or the Infinite out of Teddy's deck so far, even though, you know, they've been lockjawing. They just had it in all of their opening hands, so maybe not expecting something bigger to ever come down on Space Throne. And then Leech coming down here. Or if there is something bigger, you know, maybe you're thinking that you'll get that on turn 6 when you swap hands with Mindscape. Okay, yeah, it looks like both players have snapped. Because I don't think this is game 5. I think this is game 4, which means we were not at baseline 2. I didn't actually notice, to be honest. Leech going to blanket the hand. Now Infinite is just jammable. Arrow pulls the Leech. Oh, this is so good for Teddy. Yeah, just Infinite the space. Like, you need to get Infinite out of your hand because you do not want to pass that over to Tech God. Magneto's blanked out. Blue Marvel actually starting to look... No, Blue Marvel's blanked out, so yeah. It's really just like the Magneto that you're passing over, but you do really need to get down Infinite this turn. It's really just a question of, like, where am I putting the Infinite, right? And with the way that these hands have played out so far, I think Teddy takes this with the arrow. Right? You know you didn't give him a 1-drop. They didn't Sauron this game, so the only 1-drop they could have in hand is Ebony Man, so you should be able to just arrow Elysium as Teddy. But they're already at max cube, so there's no point in retreating at this point. You're playing for 4 no matter what, because that's just Teddy's entire life total, but it looks like Teddy is going to be able to take this game back from Super Tech God. You just have to arrow the Elysium, understanding that there is... I mean, Chavez... Well, Chavez on Elysium does it as well, right? It's 11. No, it's too low. It's only plus 11. You'll go to 19. You could Viper as well, but Viper gives a card over, so that doesn't work. Teddy's struggling to find the line here. Chavez on Elysium does not do it, though. Chavez on Mindscape does do it. Because you'll go to 18. You're aware that your opponent's strongest card is 12 power. And if you are scared of a 1-drop that I'm not thinking of because 0 is already in play and Ebony Man can't be played, then I guess you're just a little bit worried about them playing like multiple cards here and filling up the Elysium. But if they're playing multiple cards, then they can't win on Mindscape. And you lockjaw the... Okay, that's... Yeah, so you did have to arrow Elysium. I actually just forgot about the lockjaw. I'm pretty sure arrow on Elysium there for Teddy won it. Because arrow has the ability. That was... Ugh. Alright, it looks like there were some tech issues, so the layout is back to what it was for game 1, which means I can put my camera back on the screen, which makes me feel more like I'm doing a VOD review and less like... I don't even know what it feels like otherwise. But Super Tech God looks to be on the same deck. It's still the Red Skull's Arnim Zola deck. I don't know if these things have deck names. One of the problems we would run into a lot in Runeterra is like people would try to come up with funky deck names, and it would just... It didn't make a lot of sense unless you knew like community memes. So we would usually just call it by whatever champions are in the deck. And in Snap, I'm kind of defaulting to doing the same thing where it's like, what is the thing that is winning you the game like 70% of the time? And I just call the deck that, right? So for me, what I'm losing to most of the time here is like just Arnim Zola Red Skull. So, but even if I just say like the Red Skull deck, I feel like you know what I'm talking about. No Lux given though, again, these players are allowed to change between rounds, so they could be playing different things. We've actually got 0 Ebony Man. That's a pretty good turn 2, but we could also Lizard into Sauron on 3, and that'll blank out Ebony Man for later. make it a little bit more of a surprise factor. Avengers Compound is a little interesting. It takes away all value from a turn 5 arrow. Curious what No Luck's Given is on. It looks like No Luck's has changed decks because I do not believe Angela was in their list earlier. And again, if you're wondering what these players are playing for, because they both won their matches, as far as I can tell, both these players are moving on to Sunday. It's just, are you going to be playing in the winner's bracket or the loser's bracket? God, Avengers Compound and Strange Academy is such a weird combination of locations. Okay, just going to continue to beef up the Monster Island. I don't know who snapped. That's one of the... Oh, man. I really wish I could tell who snapped. I've been apparently just awful at guessing who's snapping lately, but it is what it is. Like I said, it's, you know, it's my first snap video. I'll get better as time goes on. But I got to get my toes wet. Snap Clash seems like a good way to do it. VOD reviewing tournaments is one of my preferred methods of content creation because I just really like watching tournaments, so I might as well talk over it while I'm doing it. Okay, this is definitely not what we saw to No Luck's Given earlier. I'm assuming this is a negative deck? Usually I only see Angela in Mr. Negative decks these days. But I've just very recently started doing Mr. Negative stuff, so... Okay, it is Mr. Negative. I'm still very new to Mr. Negative. I just started playing it myself a couple days ago, and it has not been going particularly well. Leech seems like a really good turn 5 into a negative deck. But getting a 6 power Leech, kind of whatever. Oh, I don't know. I feel like Leech Arrow is really strong. But it looks like Tech God is going to go for the 14 power Ebony Man. What do we get here? Magic. So you've got another turn to go for the Leech at least. And I really don't see you doing a whole lot else. But sure, he's about to fill one of these locations. Limbo. Luckily, I think a 5-mana Iron Man doesn't do it. We're just ignoring the Leech entirely. I was just going to Red Skull. Okay, no, it is going to be the Leech. All right. I was about to try to click on No Lux to see how many cards in hand. I think it's a lot. I think it's 4, maybe even 5. But knowing that there's a turn 7, it's so awkward on... Sort of, are they going to dump out this turn? Are they going to dump out next turn? They're probably going to wait till turn 7, right? I really need to learn how the cube system works in friendly battles because it has been throwing me off a little bit in terms of like snapping and retreating, and I don't think it doubles on the last turn, or sometimes it does. Like, I don't think you can play for 8 cubes is sort of what I'm going at here. So I think if both players snap, it's just like the same as going to turn 6 is what it's been looking like so far, but... What can No Lux do this turn? It's really hard to try and figure out what No Lux can do this turn because like Mr. Negative went off, so we don't really know what's in the bag. But at least now, if there was an Iron Man, oh, that feels so good. Arrow is still kind of dicey though because with Sarah out, No Lux, well, No Lux might still only play 3 cards, right? No, because this isn't Surfer. Not with Magic and Sarah. Maybe it is Surfer. I don't really know how many 3-drops people feel like they need to play Surfer, but I feel like No Lux could run out 4 cards here. And if they run, 3 cards into Strange Academy, and then a 4th one into Monster Island, this could be GG. Because Leech, I don't believe, takes away the Mr. Negative swap. So even if Iron Man lost all of his abilities, if he's still just like an 0-5, he'd still just like throw that down somewhere. But yeah, actually with Mr. Negative going off and Sarah, and there's been 3 draws since the Mr. Negative, and doesn't look like Sarah or Magic were affected by it. Pretty likely No Luck's going to be able to play 4, maybe even 5 cards this turn. Not going to be able to retake Limbo, but definitely going to be able to retake Monster Island. and probably going to be able to take over Strange Academy. I would imagine No Lux takes this. Tech God, confident in the arrow play, though. No Lux retreats. Not confident enough. Also, it's reasonable, because I think No Lux isn't aware that it's going to require such little commitment to win on the right that not having abilities on your cards might not actually matter. But without knowing No Lux hand, there's no way to know. But I think the retreat was definitely reasonable in a lot of hand states. So, solid from No Lux there. Vormir, I mean, Viper's a sort of a perfect sacrifice for Vormir, I guess. Neither of these players really wants Vibranium, especially not No Lux. Like, if you Mr. Negative some Vibraniums, so far location's pretty neutral. Mojo, okay. Yeah, I'd imagine this is not Surfer at all then. Death's Domain, it's going to take an Arnim Zola to get around. And at the moment, She-Hulk Arnim Zola is probably going to be enough. But if Tech God wanted to, they could also play a card into Vibranium Mines and get... Okay, sorry, I got confused by the Vormir animation. You could play into Vibranium Mines and get a Vibranium onto Death's Domain to contest that. But now with Mojo having 4 power, it's a little bit more awkward because you would just draw that location. And I think it's a little bit better to keep your deck open and just play for the Arnim Zola. Going to be able to Shuri, Typhoid Mary, a good top deck. It probably would have just gone for Ebony Man otherwise, which, I mean, seems fine. What's the win con out of No Lux given, though? Anytime I see the Mr. Negative deck that's not Silver Surfer, I kind of struggle to understand. Like, the Magic versions, I just don't really get them. Like, there's a lot of decks that you see in Marvel Snap. I'm not going to have a perfect grasp on all of them, but I have really struggled to understand, like, the Mr. Negative decks that aren't Silver Surfer in their win conditions, just because, like, I don't lose to them very often. I kind of just have to go off of personal bias here. That's really all I have. But if Tech God, playing into Vibranium Mines, if you can actually get a Vibranium off the top and get a draw on Death's Domain, I think you're winning Vibranium Mines. Sarah comes out, but yeah, this has got to be a Tech... Oh, and the Vibranium top deck! Okay! So we tie Death's Domain. We get to Lizard. Okay, throwing the Lizard into Vormir. I don't know where I would have thrown Lizard. I probably would have thrown it into Vibranium Mines, because the one thing I'm always kind of cognizant of is going to be the Iron Man, and I don't think Lizard helps you if they Iron Man Vormir anyway, but if they, like... I guess it doesn't really matter, right? Because they haven't negative, they've only Sarad, so they're always going to Iron Man Vormir, because there's nothing they can Iron Man in Vibranium Mines. They're really just not expecting... You're really just playing for the tiebreaker. And in that situation, I don't think it matters where you put Lizard, because either way, you're just getting 5 power into your other locations. So I think where you put the Lizard is completely inconsequential here. What could have been nice is, but this would have been super heads up from Tech God if they were really playing to the Vibranium top deck, which they didn't have to because they could still top deck Arnim Zola, was if instead of playing, like, you just don't play Ebony Man last turn, you float that 1 mana so that you can She-Hulk and Vibranium this turn, but... Okay, it is Iron Man, and it is something else. It is Mystique for the Iron Man. That's going to be a win for No Lux, right? Yeah. And I'm not going to math out if She-Hulk would have changed that if that's a play that you had gone for. I don't think it would have. Actually, I think it would have been a full tie. No, because you wouldn't have been able to get down Lizard this turn. You'd actually have less power overall. Yeah. Yeah, no, there was no... There's no way out of this for Tech God other than the Arnim Zola top deck onto the Typhoid Mary. But I don't blame them for sticking it out to the end. Mystique Iron Man is a hell of a combo, but had to be exact with those two pieces. But it looks like the cubes did double on turn 6 there. I'm so confused on how these cubes work, man. Is that a Doc Ock randomly gotten for Tech God? That seems pretty good, actually. Looks like we're going to Sauron again. Just Sauron, Shuri, either Typhoid Mary or Doc Ock. Oh, Attilan. I always forget about it. I hate Attilan so much, man. Shuffle away, we get Ebony. We finally get an Arnim Zola. We've got the Doc Ock, but Arnim Zola and Doc Ock is so weird, man. Moon Girl. Okay, so that's Moon Girl's the win con. Ugh, this is such an awkward hand from Tech God. It looks like we're just gonna jam everything out of No Luck's Given. But like they just Moon Girled, so Bishop. Okay, ordering's not awful here. Magic. And Wolfsbane again. And Magic again. So there's only 2 cards left in the hand of No Luck's Given, then 3, I think, after the top deck. But Red Skull Arnim Zola. Ooh. Red Skull Arnim Zola is awkward because you sack Limbo, and if No Lux gets 2 more cards down into... Okay, yeah, if you 0 on Mojo... Okay, yeah, this... Oh, I think No Lux went for the snap there. There's still the possibility of Iron Man, but this does at least make sure that Super Tech God is not going to be losing to the Mojo World passive, will be winning Limbo, and then we'll have 25 power at Mojo World. Only 1 more card can come down outside of Iron Man. So, it's not a guarantee, but I don't hate Tech God's position. It's really just going to come down to what No Lux plays this turn. You know that they have a Bishop in hand. I think. I'm kind of assuming that only 3 or 4 cards. Okay, No Luck's gonna go for the retreat. Yeah, I guess that Doc Ock really did a number. Wasn't quite able to pull it out. Okay, we've got the Ebony Man Viper. It's really funny to like see this Ebony Man Viper combo in the deck because no, like I think Viper's fine in this deck. This is like what Tech God is running right now is like the deck that I want to be running, but I'm missing almost every single card for it. Not even like the pool 4, pool 5 cards. Like I'm missing like every pool 3 card for this deck. But yeah, here comes the Ebony Man Viper, and then should be able to Sauron safely without worrying about too much. No cards down yet for No Lux. Like, Bishop is probably their best play this turn. And Bishop's not ongoing. Like, Dream Dimension is so bad for No Lux as well. Because it takes them off of Sarah as well as Sarah. Like, I played a lot of Sarah Surfer last season, and Dream Dimension was... It broke me, dude. Dream Dimension is still kind of awkward to contest just because of the Bishop. But I think Dream Dimension really, really holds No Lux down here. Ooh, yeah. So I would have liked to see Shuri on the Dream Dimension, I think, just because it opens you up to the Arnim Zola play, but I guess Tech God doesn't really care. Oh, Typhoid's Mary's not blanked out either. So, yeah, I guess Arnim Zolaing Typhoid Mary is a little bit weaker than you want it to be. I think they don't, be like 19 power. It's not bad, right? Oh, actually, yeah, it'd be lower because of the Onslaught Citadel. Okay, I can see not playing for the Arnim Zola top deck then, if Typhoid Mary is your only option. Because you can't even like play for a Red Skull into Arnim Zola top deck because of Dream Dimension. What does No Lux have here though? We've got the Bishop down. We've seen a little bit more of their deck. It's like Angela, Iron Man, Iron Heart, Magic. Okay, Magic gonna get rid of that, turn it into Limbo. It's gonna give more time to fight over the miniaturized lab. Ooh. Yeah. We can go 0 Red Skull. We've got Dream Dimension on lock. Now we just need to pump everything into miniaturized lab. Although Typhoid Mary and Red Skull are the only heavy hitters that I've seen out of Tech God, right? I think at this point we're now playing for an Arrow top deck. Meanwhile, on the side of No Lux, they should have quite a lot of cards in hand. And they've had 2 Mr. Negative draws at this point. I guess I'm a little surprised to see Tech God going after the center rather than the side that already has Magic and Negative. But maybe there's an Arnim Zola line coming and we just 50-50 on the Red Skull and hope that, I don't know, it really depends on what No Lux turn 6 looks like. It's going to be 3 cards. Are any of them negatived? Okay, Angela comes down, not negative. Punisher, also not negative. And Wolfsbane is negative. There's no visual on it for some reason, but had 3 power base. She-Hulk Limbo a winning line? Yeah. Because there's no Sarah, which means there's no Iron Man Mystique. No Luck's going to have a really hard time getting 12 power into Miniaturized Lab as well as winning Limbo. But even if you go She-Hulk into Miniaturized Lab, you go to 28. Baseline, we go to 7 on Punisher. If Iron Man plus... what other 2-drop do they play? I still think I like She-Hulk on Limbo a little bit more. But I really can't think of what the Iron Man play here is. But I don't think they need that much more power alongside it, right? Because Angela's going to go up, Punisher's going to go up. And if it's a negative Iron Man... are you ever beating negative Iron Man? Jubilee? Okay, yeah, even if this pulls Iron Man, it doesn't do it. Because of the She-Hulk? Oh no, it does do it. Looks like they had some technical difficulties. Yeah, I was just... okay. Yeah, Jubilee into the Iron Man. Huh. So it really didn't matter where the She-Hulk came down. I also forgot that She-Hulk was only 9 power because of Typhoid Mary. But... yeah, No Luck's pulling it out. Ooh, man. I guess it That's sort of the correct versus winning thing, right? Where like there was no winning play there, but you still want to think about what was the correct play. If Mystique was coming down for no ability on Limbo, like Jubilee doesn't win center unless you pull anything other than Iron Man. But I think there were only like, you know, 2 or 3 cards. I think there were only 2 cards left in deck. Because I think there's 6. I think there's 3 left in deck on 6, which means there's 2 left in deck on 7. So it was a 50-50 to hit the Iron Man. But we haven't seen Jubilee yet. So Super Tech God might not have been aware of it. Although a little bit of intuitive thinking would tell you that like Jubilee is a good Mr. Negative card. So now we've got Plunder Castle, Machine World, and Los Diablos. So we're about to lose either Machine World or Plunder Castle. Okay. All locations are now open. It's already turn 4 too, and we've got so little on the board here. We're just going to zero out a Viper. Play harder into Machine World. It looks like we're sacking the Los Diablos base, at least for now. Maybe we'll go for a big swing turn later. Do you have a turn 5 She-Hulk available? If that's a route we want to go. Leech. Also, not looking bad, but not looking great, especially as we give a 0 and a Viper over to No Lux. Do we just Typhoid Marry the Ruins? Nope, it is going to be Leech. This is not a lot of power on board for Tech God, though. It's really spread out, but hell, even like the 0 Viper that you gave over to No Lux is... Yeah, I don't think Arrow's getting you out of this one on 6. Leech is cool, but I just don't think this is enough power. Unless... maybe you're just expecting the magic? Is Tech God playing to the magic? I've never done that before. Because I've never played, like, you know, this many sets against the same deck. So maybe Tech God is actually just playing for the magic and saying, yeah, like, I know my board looks really weak going into turn 6, but there will be a turn 7. I'm pretty confident in that. Because without a Sarah on board, you know, No Lux turn 6, pretty weak anyway. Maybe you just would have scooped up if you saw the Sarah. Gonna undo all of our actions. Got a couple options. Basically, actually, we do have quite a few options, right? We could She-Hulk, we could Arrow Ebony Man, or we could Lizard and Typhoid Mary. Gonna pass. Okay, so we're basically playing She-Hulk. We wanted to see what was coming out. Sarah is blanked. So now we're getting... Did we... Okay. I was gonna say, where... Okay, just completely uninterested in fighting over Los Diablos base. This is a 20 power She-Hulk into Limbo. Hand is blanked for No Lux given. So even Iron Man on Limbo does not do it. Going to 17 power on Ruins. I assume Tech God's got this one. I assume they got the last one, though, and I was very surprised by the Jubilee Mystique, especially the 03 Mystique sort of winning Limbo there, but... This one, I'm feeling a little bit more confident. And if Tech God loses, that I believe is the set. I think he's only got 4 cubes left. But I like the play from both these players. Level of play in this match has been high. The match before this, a little questionable at the end there. Still not sure what that was all about, but... You know, I'm not going to completely judge a player off of one mistake. They happen. I just... One thing I don't like is when shoutcasters don't call it misplays, or like... try to jump through hoops to justify it. I don't really do that. But it does leave, you know, to me sometimes looking stupid because it wasn't actually a misplay and I was missing something. And that happens, you know. That will happen. Yeah, Iron Man not going to do it into the 20 power of the She-Hulk. So, Tech God going to even this one up a little bit. I think it's like 4 cubes for Tech God to 3 cubes for No Lux, I think is how this plays out. Okay, so this won't necessarily be the last match, though it can be if either player wants to snap, but if No Luck snaps, it might only go to 3 cubes. I'm not actually sure. I don't know if No Luck can snap it to 4. A slow hand from Tech God. I don't think that matters too much because it's +5 energy on the start and just gonna leech the opener. And okay, so good to know. So No Luck's actually, I'm wondering if Tech God snaps, it might also only go to 3. So I don't really know who snapped there. I would imagine Tech God snapped, but this turn 1 leech I don't think is like actually that good because No Lux can probably play, yeah, like 2 cards here. And if one of them is Mr. Negative, like, so you've blanked 2 cards out of No Luck's hand. They only played Angelo Bishop. So I would assume they don't have Mr. Negative in the opener. And those are some really good cards to get down turn 1. So you've really got to hope that the 2 cards you blanked on Leech are very impactful. But, like, I just don't think a turn 1 Leech matters that much. Yeah, like, you blanked Mojo. And then, so there's only one other card that's been leeched. It looks like, don't get me wrong, it's better than any other play Tech God had turn 1, I think. You know, if you can sort of, like, you want to Shuri the Red Skull before you Arnim Zola it, or you want to, you know, blank out its ability or something like that. But at the moment, it's looking like this is going to go to Super Tech God. Hands down 6,000% because you've got Shuri, Red Skull, Arnim Zola on Shuri's lab. And there's no ability on the Red Skull. This is super ideal for Tech God. No Lux has to drop Mr. Negative here. And then you've got to find, you know, an Iron Man. And I think that was just a total pass on No Luck's turn. Yeah, this is about to be, what, a 100 or a 60 power Red Skull? Yeah, okay, so Super Tech God wins. Hands down, I would say. Oh, but No Luck's had priority. I don't think that matters. Yeah, because Tech God still gets to Arnim Zola. And then just Arrow on 7. Looks like they actually just want an Arrow on 6. Oh, don't. I was going to say, do not play the 0. That screws everything up. Yeah, personally, I think I would have done this in a slightly different order. I think I would have Arnim Zola the Red Skull here, and then I would have arrowed to Limbo on 7. Okay, it looks like Tech God is actually going to go for the same thing then. That makes more sense to me. Sarah has not been blanked, but there's really not a lot of cards in the hand of No Lux. Certainly nothing that's going to swing one of these locations. Unless... No, because we haven't Mr. Negative Iron Man. So, yeah, there's nothing. Yeah, that should be Tech God taking it. No Lux with only 3 cubes left and 3 already being played for. There's no chance of retreat, so Super Tech God should just be able to take this one out. I'm trying to think real hard. Is there anything that No Lux can do? And I'm not coming up with anything. Super clean play from Tech God. I was a little bit worried about the turn 6 there, where we were going to arrow to Hell's Kitchen and then Arnim Zola on 7, but I did sort of switch it around to the order that I liked a little bit more. So I gotta say, clean play from Tech God. Definitely deserves to be coming out of this group as the winner. And we'll see what you thought you could fight back with Iron Man, but without it being an 05 Iron Man, I don't even think that was enough. Oh, maybe with Mystique, yeah. With Mystique it would have been. Good. Well played by Super Tech God. So Super Tech God coming out first in the group, No Lux second in the group, and we will see them again on Sunday. Okay, fortunately / unfortunately, we've gone back to the layout where we get to see both players' hands, but I have to hide my camera because I'm just looking at this and I cannot see anywhere where I'm allowed to put it. It just doesn't make sense anywhere unless I, like, maybe top left corner. I don't know. I'm not too worried about it. You guys know what I look like. But it looks like we're back on a Thanos deck for Lammy. And, okay, the Sauron, the Red Skull deck for Eggs. This time with Taskmaster. I don't think don't think Tech God was running Taskmaster. Never saw it, at least. And I do think Taskmaster, very, very good card for the deck. Maybe he just doesn't have it. That's one of the weird things with Marvel Snap is even in tournament at like high level play, it's hard to tell like, okay, who just like doesn't have this card? Already got a snap. I didn't see from who. Based on the hand, I'd assume it was Lammy. Because Eggs doesn't have a clean like Shuri Taskmaster play yet, because if you Shuri, then you can't She-Hulk the next turn. Gonna Sauron a Timu. So this is actually like pretty different, or rather a rather different version of the Shuri deck than what we saw out of Tech God, which I'm interested to see play out. Lammy series seems to be on more or less the same thing that we saw earlier out of the Thanos deck, although Okoye? I'm going to say Okoye, and that might be wrong. And if it's wrong, it's the last time I'll ever call it Okoye. And Vision, which are rather different than what we saw earlier. Lockjawing on... Okay. I was going to say lockjawing and saying, yeah, you know, I'm gonna add a little bit of power here. I'm not too worried about it. But actually, that location gets ruined. So now we've only got one way to lockjaw. But Space Stone does mean we'll be able to move one of the cards out of there. So actually, pretty heads-up lockjaw location there. On the side of Eggs, though, yeah, looks like we're going... I mean, this is just a pretty cut-and-dry Shuri Red Skull Taskmaster. It's actually Devil Dino in the Lockjaw Thanos deck. So a very different Thanos than Lockjaw Thanos than what we saw earlier. The Devil Dinosaur might be the move. I think you only get to move one card with the Space Stone. So we are actually just going to get the Devil Dinosaur out of there and cycle something else. Nope, still thinking about it. It really comes down to, like, do you think you can win this location if you get a different Devil Dinosaur in? The problem is that, like, Eggs is just going to win Los Diablos and Shadowland. And I don't think even moving the Devil Dinosaur out of that does much, because neither Taskmaster nor Red Skull are going to be Magnetoable. Vision comes out. Arrow. Oh, okay, so if Lammy just arrows to Los Diablos... Oh, but you're probably worried about Arnim Zola. Again, this is not open deck list, and all you've seen is Sauron Shuri Red Skull. I think it's very reasonable to assume Arnim Zola, in which case you might arrow to Shadowland, which would be disastrous. That's exactly what Eggs wants. Okay, yeah, this is a rough situation for Lammy. Because personally, I'd be expecting Arnim Zola. And maybe the answer to that is to move something out of Ruins, but because you've got Lockjaw there, and I think for the most part, all of your big cards are in hand already, might have been better to Leech last turn instead of the Vision. That might be the difference maker here for Lammy. Looks like we are... Okay, yeah. Oh, it's going to be Arrow into the center. I like what Lammy was going for here. You know, playing around the Arnim Zola very well because Lammy has priority, but unfortunately for Lammy, it's Taskmaster. And that's where this deck forks you a lot of the time. It makes it very difficult to like arrow because you're like, okay, you know, is it Arnim Zola? Do I have to drag this to a different location, or is it Taskmaster? And while this would have worked against Tech God, who is not running the Taskmaster, Eggs on a little bit of a different version of the build, but the information is now out there. You know, Lammy is aware of the Taskmaster. Unfortunately, it does come at the price of 4 cubes. So I think that what Lammy did there was reasonable. I think that the 4 cube, even going for it, was perfectly reasonable. Going, hey, you know, this is probably going to be an Arnim Zola. And unfortunately, just a little bit wrong on that one. Actually, Zabu in the deck for Eggs as well. What 4-drops did we see? I assume there's going to be, like, you know, there's Shuri, there's probably Typhoid Mary. I don't think we saw Typhoid Mary, but to the game at hand, very strong opener for Lammy. We've got all the stones plus Lockjaw. And it looks like Lammy even checking the stones. I don't know if there is a... Yeah, there's probably no spectate client, which means we are just grabbing streams from the players. And actually not interested in saving these for Lockjaw. We're just going to throw them all down. She's going to draw quite a lot of cards. Zabu for eggs, but no targets. Looking at the locations, nothing super crazy for any player, but we're gonna have to see what pops out of or out of X Mansion rather. And then, I mean, it's just looking like a Red Skull Taskmaster for eggs here. Although turn 4 could be a bit of a difference maker. We need to draw Shuri though. Without Shuri, like I don't think Red Skull Taskmaster is going to win this matchup. A Taskmaster out of the X Mansion. Warpath. Oh, and I don't know if God, because the empty location is Dark Dimension, I don't even think Arrow can sort of fork this Warpath. Just gonna play the blanked out Ebony Man, and then I mean it's probably just Red Skull Taskmaster again. No Shuri this time, but I'm not sure it's gonna matter. The Vault, rather irrelevant. Sunspot, pull us something good. Leech. Okay, Leech is big. Leech gets rid of the Taskmaster, but I mean, I don't think it matters. I think Eggs can Shuri the Vault, go to 21 to play around Blue Marvel, and then just Shuri Red Skull. Oh, but it looks like Eggs is unaware of the presence of the Blue Marvel. Or is just looking to win X Mansion Dark Dimension. But even if you wanted to do that, I think you would still Shuri the Vault. Because if you're going to Red Skull Dark Dimension, you're losing 4 power on the Warpath. Maybe that's why you're Shuriing here? Either way, it looks like Eggs is just caught off guard by the Blue Marvel. Oh, you actually can go to 6. Can you go to 8? I don't understand, man. I don't know this game. Going for Typhoid Mary plus armor? Have to be armor on the X Mansion, yeah, to try and make up for that. That's not a lot of power, though. Doesn't matter, though. Dark Dimension fully all in. Oh, but Magneto. Yeah, Magneto's going to, Magneto's going to do it. Oh, was that a misorder as well? It looks like, yeah, I don't think Eggs meant to Shuri the armor. Because Typhoid Mary would not have won Dark Dimension without the Shuri. So it looks like that was a pretty big misclick out of Eggs, but ultimately doesn't matter. Would have lost to the Magneto anyway. But oh my gosh, Lamentis on 1. Thank goodness we're not starting for 2 cubes. Okay, no Lockjaw in the hand of Lammy, but yeah, I think that Lammy just has to concede here immediately. The stones do not function without a deck. Okay, that's a perfect... I think that is... Wait, did Eggs retreat? Yeah, I think Eggs retreated. Eggs had the ability to hard win 1 location, and I guess just worried about the big cards that we're seeing out of Lammy. I thought Lammy had to concede there 100%. Huh. Not a fan of that retreat from eggs, but it's over. It's done with. Reality Stone going to come out. It's going to transform the location. Ooh, Sanctum Sanctorum. I don't think we've seen an Arnim Zola out of eggs yet. They might not be playing it, in which case I don't think they can get onto the Sanctum Sanctorum. And I imagine Lammy, with the arrow, is a pretty good shot at actually winning a location. Eggs seems pretty... Oh, okay, there is Arnim Zola. We are playing Arnim Zola. Attillin! I hate Attillin, man! I hate Attillin so much. Eggs actually, like, pretty much had the game with, like, the perfect Sauron into Shuri, into Red Skull, into Arnim Zola, and it just doesn't matter because of Attillin. And with 2 cubes already on the line, you know, Eggs is going to have a really rough time coming back into this series if they do fall in this particular game. It's like not over yet, but the fact that you just got your perfect hand shuffled back is so rough. And now Typhoid Mary is, you know, fine. You get to go like Typhoid, Taskmaster, Arnim, so you are winning Sanctum Sanctorum. You have a shot at Attillin just because Lammy already has, you know, half the board space gone with 2 Time Stones, a Quinjet. Looks like they're going to Lockjaw a Soulstone and just kind of really all in on this Attillin location. This is looking like a win for Eggs, but it really does depend on what comes out. Like, Vision could be really big here. Going to draw Devil Dino. Magneto, but because of the priority, unable to pull Typhoid Mary. So, yeah, you just get to... Oh, I would have gone both on Attillin, and then Arnim Zola cloning Vats to win Sanctum Sanctorum and get 2 Typhoid Marys on Attillin. Because Attillin's already... Yeah, I don't know why Eggs is fighting over cloning Vats still. Arnim Zola gives you the ability to win the Sanctum Sanctorum. I think you just all in on the right. Because now... I mean, I guess you just still Arnim Zola, but... Oh, Soulstone. Okay, yes, Soulstone. Okay, so it ends up the same anyway. You know, Attillin is at a set number of power. Kind of. You do need to be cognizant of the Blue Marvel. You did lose to that a couple games ago. So Attillin does have the capabilities to go up to 21, which is why I would have liked to seen the double Typhoid Mary on Attillin. Granted, it looks like it's just going to be Devil Dinosaur, who will have, I think, 13 power at a quick glance. But that doesn't really matter because you're not fighting for cloning Vats. But it will be a pretty narrow win on the side of Eggs, again with the possibility that like Blue Marvel does just end the game, but I don't think Eggs really wants to go down to 1 cube here. Still, very surprised that Eggs scooped on the last turn, or on the last game, on the Lamentus one. I mean, it's really just that cut and dry. Does Lammy have Blue Marvel? The answer is no. Again, though, just really not sure why we didn't all in on Attillin. Yeah, this was dicier than it had to be, but it's still a win from Eggs, and I think that's actually going to tie up the series in terms of cubes. Yeah, it looks like both players are down to 3. High stakes, round 5. Okay, a snap from either player ends the game. Ends the series, rather. Probably the better way to put it. And not a bad opener from Lammy. Eggs still leave some things to be desired, but that's kind of the cool thing in my mind about the Red Skull decks. Is it doesn't really matter what your opening hand looks like. You've got a lot of time before you really start playing the game. And even then, like, we've got Armor at Timu, which is a really good way to play through the non-combo turns. Like, if we just don't draw Arnim Zola, or like we don't draw like a great Taskmaster hit, like Armor at Timu plus probably like Sauron, because I think Sauron only hits things that are in hand and deck, so I think once Armor's in play, you're good. Just gonna Quinjet a Soulstone that's gonna draw a card and give everything at the Sinister location minus power. I'm a little iffy on stoning Sinister London, but again, I really haven't played a lot of Thanos. I say a lot. I haven't played any Thanos. Let me not cap here. I've played 0 fucking Thanos. All right, I don't have Thanos. All right, I'm not a cool kid, but did run into a little bit of an issue last game with the spacing not going super their way, and I feel like there are better things to put at Sinister London, but the draw 2 probably going to be worth it. I think it's more so just unfortunate that the Quinjet landed at Sinister London. And I think you probably could have given a Quinjet over to Eggs on the Machine World. Usually, like, you kind of want to wait until the last turn to start fighting over that one, but yeah, why not give him a Mind Stone? Mind Stone draws 2 stones. What do I care if they get a Mind Stone? I was a little surprised not to see the armor come. I guess your options for armor were either Vibranium Mines or Sinister London. Like, you don't want to Machine World it. Although I guess you don't really care, right? I don't think you care if you give Lammy an armor. I would have liked to see the armor come down, I think, is what I'm getting at here. Just because you have the Atimu, and now, like, you top decked into Shuri on turn 4, so I don't think it really matters. The awkward part is that this is definitely not a Taskmaster game, but... Or sorry, not an Arnim Zola game, but from the looks of things, I have to imagine it's just going to be a float on 5 into She-Hulk and Taskmaster. Probably both at Sinister London, because this She-Hulk's going to have 40 power. You probably just... Yeah, okay, this is just over. Eggs is winning. Probably 1,000%. Arrow... Actually, Arrow might be an issue. Because Lammy or Eggs is, I would imagine, going to pass this turn so that you can She-Hulk Taskmaster. And then if Lammy just arrows everything to like Machine World, then the game is just over. Oh, but Lammy's gonna arrow on 5 to try and duck the Sinister London. Oh man, I don't think this is like necessarily wrong from Lammy. It's just a really unfortunate misread. And it's gonna be super, super series defining here. And Eggs is gonna be able to take it. There is nothing scarier than just... You go for the arrow and your opponent plays absolutely nothing. Oh, this is heartbreaking for Lammy. And it's just the way that the card's laid out for Eggs. There's no reason to play anything this turn. Oh, no. Oh, the arrow. Oh, it hurts so bad. And now She-Hulk Taskmaster just going to end the series. Eggs for Sale is going to take it. Oh, Lammy. I'm so sorry. It really just came down to that one arrow play. And I don't know if I would even call it incorrect. You're kind of, you know, thinking about what your opponent's doing, what you've seen out of them already. I don't think Lammy has actually seen the She-Hulk. I think that is still a surprise even this late in the set. And you know you don't have to worry about Arnim Zola because every location is full. So, but even then, like, if it was going to be like Red Skull or something, you know, do you really care about Red Skulling it to them, or like taking it to the Machine World? If you're worried about a Taskmaster, I don't think there's really a lot that Lammy could have done here. The only way that they could have actually won the game with the arrow was if they knew that it was going to be She-Hulk into Taskmaster, which, again, I do not think you had seen the She-Hulk up until this point. So just kind of unfortunate for Lammy, but I think it was like defensible play. Oh, the Reality Stone. Okay, yeah, man, I don't know what these stones do. It's gonna actually do it. Lammy's gonna take it. The arrow didn't matter. Okay, wow. Yeah, missed that one. Fucking whiffed that, did I? All right, on to match number 2 of Group B. We got Coco versus Default Dan. It looks like Default Dan's going to be on Darkhawk, and... Okay, it's another Thanos deck on the side of Coco. This one a little bit different, though. I don't think this is going to be Lockjaw. This is more like, you know, just sort of taking advantage of having the stones in play and just drawing all of them. So a new kind of Thanos that we haven't seen, at least so far this tournament. So far, nothing crazy on locations. Clintar, it's not bad. It can get a little awkward into Shang-Chi. And I'm curious about Dan's deck, because I personally haven't seen the Darkhawk build since the Zabu nerf. I imagine it's going to be, you know, Mystique. I'm a little surprised by I just really never see Scarlet Witch. Oh, it looks like we're actually just willing to like sacrifice some cards to Halal. Or we're setting up for Carnage. Doesn't really matter though. It gets Scarlet Witch, and instead we've got Monster Metropolis. So that's actually, again, oh man, and with the cards all swapping power, this is actually, oh man, it's pretty good for both players. Darkhawk, okay, I would say that Dan kind of wins out on this, at least just from like a high roll value perspective. The ability to get Sarah down a turn earlier normally would be very good, but with this hand, I don't think it matters too much. And then on the side of Coco, like, Demon is just taken off the table. Angela gets a little bit of a boost, which is nice. You know, Carnage, relatively unaffected. Valkyrie, actually not a bad pickup. But the Shang-Chi in Default Dan's hand, I think, is going to be the difference maker here. Like, can you get that down onto Carnage? Can you get that down onto Bishop, even? It's kind of going to depend on how the Monster Metropolis location plays out. Carnage here... It's going to go to... I think Carnage here actually does go to 9. So we've got a Shang-Chi target on the side of Default Dan. No! Oh, because of Polaris. Never mind. I don't think Bishop ever gets there either. Maybe Bishop gets there. Oh, a Shang-Chi for Coco as well. Dan's got Cosmo and Juggernaut, though. And Sarah, like I mentioned earlier, coming down a turn early. I'm actually trying to figure out who snapped. I missed the snap. I'm not going to lie. I did not see when the snap happened. But the players are going after 2 cubes. Peak looks really secure for Coco. Clintar, very heavily favored for Dan. And Monster Metropolis, you know, kind of going to be where these Shang-Chis come into play. I expected more Shang-Chi in the tournament, I'm not going to lie. But given the sort of combo-y nature of the decks that we've seen up until this point, because we've seen like a lot of Lockjaw, and I understand not running Shang-Chi in a Lockjaw deck. We turn it into Savage Land? Oh, man. So, whenever Dan wants to, they can just claim the Savage Land. Peak still looking... I mean, Peak is now contestable given that a lot more board space just went away. The highest this Bishop is going to get up to now is 11, and that is if we can actually run out, 5 cards, which means we're probably not putting an insane amount of power on the board, right? If we're running out 5 cards over the next 2 turns. Looks like Dan is just kind of debating where to put the Juggernaut. And, okay, understandably, Darkhawking the center location. This is not only going to protect from Shang-Chi, but if you went for sort of a weak committal here, something like, just like a 4-power Enchantress or something, then you'd go to 9 and you actually do run the risk of losing to Blue Marvel, which, not unheard of in the Thanos decks of really any variant, so... Darkhawk just going to secure the middle. A lot of power pumped into Clintar. Peak pretty much off the table, as I do not believe Bishop is an ongoing ability. Dan will flip first, so not able to Shang-Chi the Bishop. I think that's what they were debating there. Looks like we're just going to buff up Clintar with as much power as possible, which is going to be Enchantress. We'd go to 12. It looks like... Okay, we get a retreat later on the side of Coco. Dan is about 2 inches off of securing the win by hitting the final turn button. And we'll take a 2-cube lead here in game 1 of the second match of Group B. Really awkward location cycling on that one. As far as the decks go, though, you know, it's really just going to come down to, like, can you Shang-Chi the Darkhawk location? But Dan obviously has some protection for that. I imagine Sarah's in here to get down some powerful combo turns. Something like Darkhawk plus Rock Slide or like Darkhawk plus Mystique, similar to what we see in like the Mr. Negative decks with Iron Man. But I do believe... No, I didn't see... I'm trying to remember who was playing what. Coco was not the one playing Enchantress. It was Dan that was playing Enchantress. So it's basically just like a lot of control tools alongside Darkhawk as sort of the finisher. And then Rockslide, you know, being a 4/6, it's comparable to like White Queen, which we see a lot of like Devil Dinosaur decks, which usually have a more control shell around them as well. So interested to see how this one works out. Valkyrie, not a card I see very often. Very curious to see how that one plays out over the course of the game. And it looks like we're debating just filling up Oscorp Tower and giving Dan some stinkers. I have to look at what the Power Stone does again. Okay, that's just the one that gives Thanos +8 or +10 or whatever. Makes Thanos big. Nothing. Probably would have really liked to draw another stone here just to really fill up Oscorp Tower and feel like you've secured that location. But even just giving -1 power over on 2 locations feels really strong. And then Rickety Bridge. Oh! Okay, Polaris able to actually really, really screw over Coco here. Yeah, the sewer system is a lot more sort of scuffed at this point than the Oscorp Tower is. But, I mean, like, Coco can Carnage to clear it, but I don't know that you want to be sacking Bishop to do that. And instead, Carnage is actually just going to be sacrificed to the Rickety Bridge. I like that. And then next turn, Coco should be able to just lock down Rickety Bridge with Professor X. And then we'll kind of see where things go from there. Maybe Valkyrie on Sewer System secures it? Because I believe Valkyrie is the one that sets the power of everybody at that location to 3. Now, I've never really played against Valkyrie, so I'm not sure if that persists through, you know, something like the Darkhawk ability. The issue, though, the big issue here is that Coco has priority. So Valkyrie will go off before the card is revealed for default Dan, which would almost certainly give the win to Dan because of the sewer system. Oh, but not if it's Juggernaut. Well, actually, Juggernaut would just push away the Valkyrie, so it wouldn't make too much of a difference. It's looking like Dan's got this one because Coco's stuck with priority. Even if you Blue Marvel, I mean, it really doesn't matter as long as Dan is putting the Juggernaut down there, right? Like, Juggernaut on one location and then Darkhawk on another, especially with a Korg to back it up. That's got to be a victory for Dan. I know I've called a couple games pretty early today, especially Thanos games, because, God, do I forget what these stones do. But the Mind Stone and the Soul Stone, you know, drawing 2 stones, drawing a card. I mean, this is just kind of a mismatch, right? I feel like Darkhawk is extra good against Thanos, where you have this much larger opening deck. And yeah, you get to draw through it a little bit better, but yeah, as you can see here, it's still a 20 power Darkhawk. I actually did manage to tie the sewer system, but doesn't matter because Oscorp Tower, infinitely bigger for default Dan. Coco really on the back foot here. Only 4 cubes remaining, if I'm seeing this correctly. It's been solid play from both players. I just think Coco's deck is ill-matched into what Dan has brought. And, you know, that's why high-stakes tournaments are probably not going to be best of 1, single elimination, or anything like that, but just realized my spacebar was out there the entire time. I apologize for that. But I'm too far into the recording to go back and do it again. Bar with no name. Least power here wins. Okay. That's actually pretty good for Coco. They do run Hood. Now they just need to find it. And both players have already activated Vormir. So this is going to be a pretty big carnage. I think we're almost at all 6 stones. We did get the rock out of the deck, which, I mean, it's never going to feel good. +1 energy again. Priority is with default Dan, so they could Cosmo out a location. They know that Coco runs Carnage. You saw it in game number 1. But it looks like we're just going to go for the on-curve Rock Slide. Which I think is fine. It's kind of hard to tell where you want to Cosmo. Because, you know, you could Cosmo Vormir, and then as it turns out, you know, Coco is just going to a different location with something else entirely, like an on-curve turn 4 play or something along those lines. So I think holding back the Cosmo is pretty reasonable. Yeah, actually, even if you had Cosmoed Vormir, wouldn't have made a difference, because Coco decides to play a different location anyway. And actually now can move Carnage over to Vormir if they want to. Still haven't found the Hood. The card that wins the bar with no name. Bast isn't bad here. It's not great. You know, it's a little late in the game for something like this. And I think that we've already seen 3 of the stones played, 2 more in hand. So there actually is a reasonable chance that you get down, you know, 18 power Thanos this game. Cosmo's locked in on Vormir for Dan. And it looks like Coco's got the read. That was very, very nice from Coco, understanding where the Cosmo was going to go. So Bishop comes down, Power Stone goes elsewhere. And then a snap. A snap to kick things off. Oh man, Quinjet, an awful, awful top deck here for Coco. Really looking for that Hood. But now we're at a point where, you know, Thanos could still come down. I mean, I guess it doesn't really matter that we haven't found Hood because, and I'm remembering now, Reality Stone will change the location. So Coco could just Reality Stone bar with no name on turn 6 and steal that location. So now you just kind of have to figure out, how am I winning the other locations without dropping Thanos on 6, if the plan is to Reality Stone on 6. Dan does not have priority. Priority currently lies with Coco as they're winning by 3. Yeah, Quinjet, I think, telegraphs the Reality Stone a little bit too hard. I don't think you can put anything at bar with no name this turn, but they do it anyway. So Coco sort of telegraphing the Reality Stone line. Draws a rock. Oh, man. Believe it was, yeah, 3 rocks that were shuffled into the deck, 2 of them drawn. It's unfortunate for Coco. And now, oh, we even see Dan going for the Scarlet Witch on the bar with no name. So both players actually had the same idea. But with Juggernaut securing it. Oh, man. And Coco probably doesn't know that the Scarlet Witch is coming. It's this... Okay, so this is actually a really interesting moment, right? Because if Dan doesn't have the Scarlet Witch, you know, does Coco assume that Dan assumes that the Reality Stone is coming down and you need to contest this location? And is that the plan? Was Coco going for like a sort of misleading Dan and saying like, oh, you know, obviously I'm going to Reality Stone this location, and then you just don't do it and you let Dan commit into that location? We're playing for 4 cubes though if things go to the end of it here, so Coco is going to retreat and fight another day. Dan still has not lost a game. Things looking really rough here for Coco. This deck just doesn't seem to be doing what it is that it's supposed to do. And the Shang-Chi tech really not paying dividends here for either player. But I feel like that's working out against Coco a little bit more because Dan just has higher statted units in general. Like Lizard, Polaris, we're really just kind of loading up our locations with these stones and have been struggling to sort of get the payoff cards. Triskelion is going to clog up the hand of Dan for a turn. It's also going to clog up the hand of Coco because Hood is going to generate another card, but... Oh, this is actually just a really awkward hand from Coco. One of these players might be considering just like a turn 1 concession, but yeah, not gonna go that way. Olympia completely shut down by Triskelion. Early lead from Coco, but Zabu... I don't even know what Dazzler does, if I'm being honest. I've never seen this card before. Just something in the hand of default Dan. Looks like Dazzler's going to come out, so I should probably look up Dazzler in the meantime so that I can effectively understand what's going on. Ongoing, if you have 4 cards at each location, plus 6 power. Oh, they hovered it right after I looked it up. Oh, it's a pool 5. That explains why I haven't seen it. Oh, man, there's nothing I hate more than, like, when... I mean, it's kind of fun, especially when you're casting rather than playing, or even doing a VOD review like this, and just getting to look at it where, like, you know, Triskelion gave me Vulture, and then Strange Academy said I just get a 3-mana, 8-power card. Gonna morph into something. Meanwhile, Dan's going for Scarlet Witch Swarm to deny the Vulture. Darkhawk! Unfortunate for Coco, Dan has the Shang-Chi in hand. And on top of that is going to Darkhawk the vault location so that there cannot be a return Shang-Chi from Coco. That said, though, Dan has priority, so Coco does have an opportunity to Shang-Chi the Darkhawk, but you would have to have the exact read that Dan is Darkhawking the vault, which I don't think is a reasonable read to make at this point. So it looks like Dan is going to be taking this last game as well. I say last game, but there's only 1 cube on the line. Coco does still have 2, so they're still in this. And looking at just sort of the other cards in the hand of Coco, you know, if we just concede the vault here. Oh, Coco's got it. Coco knows. I don't know who snapped, but Coco's super well aware of the Darkhawk. It's still just a draw on the location, but, you know, you do have Blue Marvel. So you can Blue Marvel Bast Olympia. I don't think you're fighting over Triskelion. Shang-Chi Juggernaut. Oh, man, the Juggernaut with the Shang-Chi is brutal here. Even if both cards go to the Triskelion, yeah, it's looking like this is just going to be the win for Dan. Because you're winning the vault anyway, so best case for you is that both cards go to Triskelion, in which case you're adding, what, 5 power to go to 3? Yeah, it's not happening. But instead, we get Polaris and Shang-Chi. Polaris could pull... It just pulls Demon, right? Oh, it could pull Bast. Oh, if it pulls Bast, then I think Coco actually wins. Come on. Oh, it hits Demon. Oh. Barely does Default Dan take that one. But that is going to be Coco eliminated in a perfect game or a perfect match for Dan. Okay, we are on to the winner's match from Group B, Default Dan versus Lambie series. Again, both these players will be moving on to Sunday. It's just who's going to play on the winner's side and who's going to play on the loser's side. Dan, so far, has not dropped a game this tournament because they've only played 1 match, but, you know. And it looks like they're going to run back the Darkhawk, and Lambie, I believe, is running back their deck as well. Curious to see if any card changes were made, but honestly doubtful. A little bit of sportsmanship from Default Dan. Ongoing effects are doubled. That could be... I mean, that's basically a 1 lane thanks to Darkhawk, but Lambie does have Magneto. It's also very good for the Blue Marvel. Lambie's a Thanos deck, right? If I remember correctly, Lambie was... At least the last time we saw this deck, it was Thanos with Lockjaw. Or maybe there was no Lockjaw. I don't remember if there was Lockjaw. There probably was, given sort of the high cost nature of the hand right now. We see a snap and a retreat. All right. Game 1 going to Dan, but only 1 cube lost for Lammy. Sokovia going to take Sarah and Arrow. Okay, yeah, it is Lockjaw Thanos still. Lammy on the same deck as before. See Shang-Chi for both players yet again. I don't remember if Lammy was playing Shang-Chi earlier in the day, but it could just have just not come up, so I never really thought about it, or like kind of put the blinders on whenever it was in Lammy's hand. I honestly don't remember. Bar Sinister is one of my favorite locations. And Rock Slide Bar Sinister, you know, kind of interesting. Okay, Dan had priority there, so actually had potential to just get rid of it, but Lammy going to get rid of it as well with the Reality Stone. I'm not going to lie, for tournaments, I do, you know, like the idea of playing these location-changing cards. I've been pretty impressed by what the Reality Stone and Scarlet Witch have been able to do. Just in terms of really mitigating some of the damage that would normally happen. Seeing Lammy... Oh, man. Lammy's going to Lockjaw the Cosmo location. This isn't the end of the world, though. Lammy is going after... Oh, Lammy... Okay, I thought Lammy was retreating for a second. Lammy's just going for bodies. So while it is unfortunate that you're not going to get, you know, like if you cycle stones into stones, you're not going to get those abilities. But, you know, from what we saw earlier, Lammy was running like Devil Dinosaur and Magneto. There's still a good opportunity for Lammy to just like hit large units in Sokovia and still contest that location. Meanwhile, the Dark Dimension, I would say more awkward for Lammy, who's a lot more ETB focused. ETB being enter the battlefield? I don't know if that's like... I assume that's a term that most card game players know, but I don't know how many people that play Marvel Snap come from other card games, or if like this is just your first look into it because, you know, it's a mobile game and it's quick and stuff like that. Leech on the table, but you kind of have to leech the center location. Leeching Dark Dimension really does nothing for you. At the moment, Lamb has priority. So even if you throw something at the Dark... I mean, if you throw something at the Dark Dimension, it'll get Scarlet Witched and then the unit will flip, but like, you don't know that's going to happen. So Lammy can't really go leech into Dark Dimension, but Lammy's had some really nice reads so far. Or maybe it was Dan? No. I don't remember. Someone had really good reads. Actually, I lied. It was Coco. Coco had insane reads. The Shang-Chi onto the Darkhawk was wild. That was crazy. That was crazy good. It looks like we are just going to leech center location. So kind of hoping that we have one Sokovia. You know Magneto is safe from the Shang-Chi. Darkhawk off the top, though. Oh yeah, Scarlet Witch won't reveal on Dark Dimension. Duh. Doesn't matter. So Darkhawk going to take over Sokovia, and then Lammy unable to win both Washington, D.C. and Dark Dimension. And even if you Soulstone Lockjaw, you'd have to play Shang-Chi at Dark Dimension for the draw. And then the best thing you could hit would be what? Like Devil Dinosaur, which is like 7 power at that point. It's basically just the same as Arrow. Yeah. This is looking pretty over for Lammy. You know Dan's got a card on the Dark Dimension. Their card in hand is blanked, and it looks like we're just going to retreat later. So just sort of unfortunate draw sequencing there. Like if the Darkhawk had gotten hit by the leech, beautiful. But unfortunately, it was the Shang-Chi, which was useless anyway because, you know, it can only contest the Cosmo location. Daily Bugle going to shake things up for the first time. Reality Stone into the hand of Default Dan, and Polaris into the hand of Lammy. I think this is the problem that a lot of people have with Thanos decks, is just how awkward the opening hands can be when you don't have Lockjaw. Because even of the ones that we've got here, not all of these draw a card, right? Space Stone, draws a card, and Power Stone does not, and Reality Stone does. Okay. Is it just the Power Stone that doesn't? Okay, yeah, never mind. It's just the Power Stone that doesn't draw a card. She-Hulk. I don't think we've seen that out of Lammy yet. At least not this series. Just gonna fill up Superflow. Oh, going to Weird World. So this is actually kind of funny because without the additional... Oh, man. So basically the way this is going to play out, Darkhawk gets super big because Dan is pumping a lot of cards into Lammy's deck and then drawing them at a very slow pace. So Darkhawk's going to be huge. The problem is that that doesn't really matter. Also, Lammy drew Enchantress. You also know that Shang-Chi is something that is available to both players. But I think that with all the stone drawing, like Lammy might actually just like draw through the entirety of Dan's deck. And then we'll have a very good idea of what is left in hand. Like you'll know that Darkhawk is there. And at the moment, given the Weird World, there's no way for Dan to actually draw into Cosmo. So Darkhawk will always be vulnerable to Enchantress. But it looks like we're actually just going to Enchantress the Zabu. I imagine Dan wants to get the Reality Stone down onto Weird World. I think pumping rocks into your opponent's deck and then drawing them is not something you want to be doing, so it's not the biggest power commitment, but you've already gotten some really impactful cards out of your opponent. Like, knowing that they don't have the Devil Dinosaur means that their only really big swing is going to be Magneto. Ooh, Monster Island going to completely fill the center location, and with Dan having the blue Marvel, is aware that they no longer have to play for this location, so it's really just going to come... Okay, yeah, Cosmo should secure it. Cosmo plus Darkhawk, I'd be surprised not to see Dan snap here. Might wait to snap until turn 6. But with Monster Island secured, and with the Daily Bugle probably getting won by Darkhawk, with a Cosmo to protect it from a Shang-Chi. I don't know how big Darkhawk is, though, and I can't check. I have to assume it's quite large, though, because a lot of the drawing that Lammy did in the early game was from Dan's deck, which means that there's still quite a bit of stones in there as well, on top of the rocks. Actually, just going to Scarlet Witch Hala as well. Does this change anything? Strange Academy. Oh, man. That's actually going to... Oh my goodness. Yeah, Daily Bugle, totally full. You know that the Darkhawk's coming. Lammy should be able to just retreat here, though. Dan, aware of how many cards are in the deck, so I imagine, very aware that Darkhawk's going to do it. Unless Lammy can draw a bunch of cards, but the stone in hand doesn't even draw cards. It's the one that doesn't. It's the Power Stone, so yeah, probably just another 1-cube retreat from Lammy. And Dan still not dropping a game. This is definitely one of the slower series we've seen, though. I think this has been like 3 losses for Lammy so far, like 2 1-cubers and a 2-cube. Yeah, so this is game 4. I don't think it's game 3. I'm pretty sure it's game 4. And yeah, this Darkhawk deck is just absolutely ripping everybody apart this tournament so far. Oh man, usually Lekagilla. What? Is that how you pronounce that? Lekugilla. I have no idea. There's so many made-up words. I'm gonna feel really bad if that's like not a made-up word. But normally it's fine to just like, last turn of the game, you slam everything onto Lekugilla, and it doesn't matter that the rocks went into your deck. But now, because you're playing against Darkhawk, every card that you play into Lekugilla is just going to count as another 6 power for the Darkhawk. And it's been so difficult to Shang-Chi. I will say, Limbo probably works out better for Lammy, but also, with both players running location destruction, they have the option to just end the game on turn 6, so I don't think either of them is really allowed to play for turn 7. At least as long as Lammy hangs on to that Reality Stone and Dan hangs on to that Scarlet Witch. Funny enough, the Rock in Dan's hand actually lets them play to Morog. Yeah, I like this a lot, playing out the Rock and going into Rock Slide on Morag. Because Lammy doesn't have a lot of like high cost, high power cards. It looks like we're gonna get a Sunspot to contest the Morag, but you could like pass turn 5 to tie Morag in order to get She-Hulk to a reduced cost. Or you could just Magneto Rock Slide away from Morag, because I think that for the most part, that's the only time you really expect Dan to be able to get Morag out. Or not Morag, but yeah, Dan probably only likes to play one card on Morag for the entire game is kind of what I'm saying. So Magnetoing the Rock Slide away makes sense, but yeah, Polarising Limbo is weird because I would say Lammy's pretty likely to play a card into Limbo this turn, so you're not actually going to pull the Sunspot. Playing at center, though, you are taking the 50-50 of am I going to pull the Mind Stone or am I going to pull the Sunspot? But I think you're sacking Limbo anyway since you already put a rock there and you've already got your Zabu there. So if you pull the Mind Stone away, it's really not the end of the world. But it's looking like this is the first game that Lammy sort of has a chance in. And Lammy hasn't... Oh no, Lammy's lined up a Time Stone. So not a full pass this turn. Actually, turning around, redebating. Okay. Lammy is just going to full pass. So, 1 mana on the She-Hulk. Priority is with Lammy, so if they Magneto Limbo, then they're going to get double Shang-Chi'd. Well, Magneto will cycle into something else from Lockjaw, but then you might actually lose if you just like cycle into a stone. So things are looking rather awkward here for Lammy. But Sunspot's already secured the Morag location thanks to the pass, so not the end of the world. Just kind of debating where we want to put this Blue Marvel and this She-Hulk. Juggernaut on the center location, going to secure that for default Dan. Depending on how Lammy sequences, Limbo's really the only one that's up for grabs here. Okay, Reality Stone. Change away Limbo. Pull a Space Stone, Time Stone. Can you pull something not Shang-Chi-able? It's Leech. So I believe that's going to be an Eternity Range win for Lammy. By 1? If I've done this correctly, it's 5 versus 6. Yes? Yes! Okay. Lammy's done it. Lammy has secured a 4-cube game, and, Dan takes his first loss here and actually just completely ties up the series, so well played by Lammy there. All right, we're in game 5. We're in the high-stakes series now. And 4 stone opener for Lammy versus a pretty good one from Dan. Gotta say, not gonna lie, I need to look up Lockjaw because I actually don't know if Lockjaw is an ongoing ability. I kind of assume it is. No, it is not. There are some weird ones that really seem like ongoing abilities, and then they're just not. Like when I first started playing it, it really seemed to me like Sunspot, Bishop, they feel like they should be ongoing abilities, as does Dracula a little bit less because it's an end of game trigger, but I don't know, it still feels weird that Dracula is the one card that I'm kind of like, I feel like I should be able to interact with this and I just can't. Daily Bugle, getting a Sarah versus getting a Magneto. Man, Dan really sniped the Magneto, huh? Okay, admittedly, I am not sure how I feel like, what's it called? Locations should resolve left to right, but I've really actually never played close enough attention, so it feels like Clintar should go off and then Bifrost should go off. But we're gonna just change the Bifrost into Baxter Building. Little unfortunate given our weak committal here, but we are actually just gonna get our Reality Stone Polaris, so all good. Freeing up a little bit more space. But when it comes to winning a singular location, it feels like Dan is the one that has a little bit more power over whether or not they just want to win a single location. But it also does come down to who has priority on turn 6 because of the Magneto. So even if you try to like secure something like the Baxter Building with a Darkhawk, you know, Magneto could just drag everything away. And Lammy, thanks to the time stone, going to be able to get down an early Sarah. Is this going to be our first 18 power Thanos game? We've already got 5 stones. And the stones are all about to merge. But Power Stone is ongoing. So you do actually need the Power Stone in play to give Thanos the additional power. Lockjaw drawn. Rock Slide into the deck. Clintar triggers. Make some symbiotes. Still a lot of cards to play on the side of Dan, who is just going to throw down a Sarah at the Baxter Building. Create some parity there. You're already winning Clintar. Daily Bugle is a little bit of a struggle to try to get through. Meanwhile, what do you want to do with your 5 mana and your reduced card costs here, Lammy? Looks like Lammy's also debating if they want to just move the symbiote. Oh, they're Magnetoing. Okay, I didn't see that. I'm going to pull Rock Slide to Clintar. This means Darkhawk is now free to do whatever they want. So Baxter Building still... Oh, no, this is just an arrow line. Yeah, Arrow should secure it, especially with the Daily Bugle being wide open. And we're going to see Dan going to try to win the Baxter Building, which would flip Clintar in their favor. But priority on the side of default, or priority on the side of Lamby means that Arrow to the center does just completely ruin everything here. And still a little bit of mana left over if you just want to like play Lockjaw at a location or something. I think the only thing... Yeah, the only way Dan gets back into this game is if Scarlet Witch pulls Limbo, but this is it. I mean, this is for all the marbles. If these players both go to turns or go to the end of the turn, it's going to be for 6 cubes, and that's just going to end the series. And it is going to end the series. The Arrow to the center, I believe, is going to secure this win for Lammy. Power Stone as well to secure the Baxter Building. Juggernaut going to push this Arrow off somewhere else, but the ability has already happened. Darkhawk and Scarlet Witch going to secure the Daily Bugle. Is it Limbo? It is Savage Land, and that means Lammy is actually going to steal the series back from Dan and move on to day 3 on the winner's side. Default Dan, only losing 2 games, but super impactful ones.